Looking back at your preliminary task, what do you feel you have learnt in the progression from it to the full product? At the beginning of the media course, I had never used Photoshop or InDesign, therefore I had very basic skills. I have learnt lessons which I am able to carry on into my A2 project. For example, I have learnt the importance of planning. Without retrieving an adequate amount of research, it is difficult to create the product. To do this, you need to create mood boards to get ideas of the target audience's interests, so you know what you need to include in your project. Furthermore, it is vital that you look at other existing products so you know how to make your project look professional. Although I have retrieved my ideas for making my college magazine by looking at other college magazines, my magazine is very basic and has little skill behind it. However, now I believe I have the skills to make a professional standard magazine pages. Front cover. By looking at my preliminary task, I can tell that I have over-whitened the eyes, making the photo seem unrealistic. In comparison to my final front cover image, the way I have manipulated the photo, she still looks realistic yet more attractive, as I have learnt how to use the lasso tool to get rid of unwanted blemishes, etc. As the person featuring on the front cover must act as an ideal self or partner, Carl Rogers, 1981, for the audience. Furthermore, I have learnt how to take a better photo, as on my preliminary task I have used a photo where the individual is not looking into the camera, whereas on my final front cover the individual is, as I have learnt the importance of direct gaze. I also found that it is better to have a plain background and clothing on the model so cover lines are easily readable. In extent, I have learned the correct code of conduct when organising a photo shoot. A call sheet must be made so the photographer can mediate the appearance and setting of the photo so as to achieve the correct effect. By my increased research of magazines, I have also become to understand the generic conventions of a magazine which are represented when comparing my preliminary task to my final front cover. On my final front cover, I have used banners and I have used a main cover line to compose them correctly on the page in the white space, whereas in my preliminary task I added cover lines over the head of my model. The audience for my preliminary task and for my final projects is the same, and I have developed my skills in learning how to attract a certain audience. For example, in my preliminary task, I used cover lines which would not excite the majority of adolescents, while on my final front cover, I advertised a competition. I also used colloquial language and swear words to promote a peer-to-peer mode of address. Contents page. On my preliminary contents page, I featured little of the common conventions of a contents page. My abilities have improved when creating my final contents page, as after my research, I have included elements such as page numbers, contact information, an editor's note, issue number, and date published. I also became to understand that the page should be continuous. For example, all the titles should be the same size and there should be gutters on the page so all text and pictures are aligned. During the making of my preliminary task, I did not know of the use of rulers on InDesign which could be used to make the project precise. I have also learnt that the contents page is there to inform the reader what is in the magazine, therefore needs to be filled with information. Yet, in my preliminary task, I only used 3 subheaders, and contained an elaborate amount of white space, while in my final contents page I used 9, so as to imply that the magazine is bursting with information.